What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to another edition of Fanduel sponsored NBA Crunch Time. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich. We got a nice two-game slate, NBA in-season tournament coming down to a close. It's provided us with some exciting basketball, but also some boring two-game slates. But shout out to our YouTube chat. Looked like they had some pretty nice success last night. Let's keep it going on to tonight. I'm joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. First up, Tim Buell, Tasteful Tides. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, we just got the Eric Gordon news. He is in. So there goes any other possible value that we could have gotten. But so Gordon's going to play. And this in-season tournament is pretty awesome. I did not think it would be, but this has been a really fun thing to watch. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Couldn't agree more. I enjoy the point differential thing. I think that's something they should add more of throughout the season. If teams are tied, number one is head-to-head, number two is point differential. And I think that would make things keep things very exciting, make it a point of emphasis, because it does. I think that's honestly the best way to kind of keep eliminating tanking. Maybe do it like this, where that impacts your draft lottery point differential does. Where, losing games, if you lose the most games, you're going to have the most lottery balls. But if for every 5 points over 10 that your win-loss differential is, you get penalized. And if it's more, you get some additional ping pong balls as a reward. I don't know. Maybe that's something they could add to the NBA to keep competitiveness up, because that's been my favorite part of it so far, I think. Joined as well by the Iceman, Keith Eister. How you doing?
Doing well. I totally agree. When they first announced this tournament, I was like, oh, this is dumb. Nobody's really going to care. It's not going to make any difference. Complete opposite. Yesterday's games were awesome. And I think that they're just going to continue to get better and better as we go deeper into this tournament. Talked about it a little yesterday. Now that we're in the knockout phase where you have to win to keep advancing, they're going to be awesome games. Shout out to Halliburton, man. How good is he? Just another awesome
he's
game
he's a true superstar. He is real life superstar, and I am just blown away at how good he is.
Yeah, he was a 14th pick or something, barely in the lottery, I think. And then Indiana stealing him from Sacramento. Incredible stuff. Yeah. What development from draft day.
Feel so bad for Kings fans. You could have had Luka Doncic, and instead you had Marvin Bagley. You could have kept Tyrese Halliburton, and you just didn't. De'Aaron Fox is great. I personally think Sabonis is a little overrated. He's a great fantasy player, but he is a pretty horrific defender. But that's another conversation for another day. I just feel bad for Kings fans. But let's dive into it. It's a little two-game slate here. Tim, you had the breakdown of the slate last show yesterday. Keith, I'm throwing it to you for the rundown today.
All right. Sounds good. It's very, very similar to yesterday. We are starved for value. It's really hard to fit in superstars. You basically get one big spend up and that's it. Maybe 1.5. You can try to fit a 8-9K star in there, but getting up to guys like Giannis and Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant and LeBron, it's difficult on this slate. It's going to come with some uncomfortable value. I think most of that uncomfortable value is on the New York Knicks. They're in a fantastic matchup against Milwaukee, who's taken a huge step backwards on the defensive end. But they have just their role players are in that mid-range price, and we pretty much know what their rotation is. So lots of Knicks value popping. Talked about it a little bit pre-show. Mitchell Robinson as the highest owned player on the slate is that's a little bit uncomfortable, but we'll get to it. It makes a lot of sense in this matchup.
Especially considering that Mitchell Robinson has a very clear path to disaster. He's been great this year at limiting himself from foul trouble. That's one of the reasons why he's playing so many more minutes this year. But historically, this has been one of the most foul-prone players in all of basketball. And so it makes it a really interesting, do I play him? Do I get overweight? Do I fade? Considering he could put up 50 points and 10x today, and he could also very easily end up playing 18 minutes because Giannis keeps driving to the hoop and draws so many fouls on him. So very interesting situation here. Tim, what's your take on this slate? Do you anything you want to add from what Keith gave us?
No, not really. Like he said, it's very, very similar to yesterday, and you have to get really uncomfortable with some of this value. It's nothing really sticks out as a smash value play, and how you play these studs and handle this kind of you have to take chances with these bench players. So yeah, like it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of ownership differences between the two sites too, so that'll be interesting to break down.
All right, well, let's start with our sponsor, Fanduel. If you're new to sports betting, Fanduel has some great deals for you. You can bet $5 on any money line, get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And you can take some of those bonus bets you have and put them on the bets you can find in our props and pick'em package. The experts at the RotoGrinders projections team take our premium stats and comb through the market for any inefficiencies through mid-November. In NBA, NFL, and NHL, we're up 38 units on our expert picks. Using our model, you can easily see which lines are off, where to find them, and how likely the prop will hit based on our tool. Check out the link in our description for more info. Let's start with a FanDuel breakdown. We'll go game by game here, and then we'll talk through the optimal plays you want to use for cash. That seemed like that worked really well yesterday. The chat was talking in YouTube. Shout out to our YouTube chat, by the way. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It helps us out wonders. Battling the YouTube algorithm, the more YouTube likes we get, the more it helps us. So help us out. Hit the like button. I'll get QQs from you, and then I'll also get QQs from the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat. But seems like our YouTube viewers had a really, really strong day yesterday. So let's keep it going with the same format. Starting with the New York and Milwaukee game, this is a big pace up spot for New York. New York is one of the slowest teams, in fact, the second slowest in all of basketball, and Milwaukee is the fifth fastest. New York is also very strong defensively. Milwaukee, not so much. So we get a great spot for New York, and even though they have a higher total, actually a somewhat below average spot, even bad spot here for the Milwaukee Bucks. Starting with the Knicks, Tim, how are you prioritizing these Knicks players?
Yeah, the Knicks are going to be they're in such a good spot, especially on their prices on FanDuel. Jalen Brunson at 8,300. He's currently 60% owned. But I'm fine with that, to be honest with you. I love him today. Definitely 100% cash game play. I'm looking at 3 Knicks for cash. I'm looking at Brunson, Randall, and then Mitch Rob. Mitchell Robinson is another guy who's going to be mega chalk, which is uncomfortable for tournaments, but I think you should play him for cash games. And then there are these bench guys for New York that are actually going to play a good amount of minutes, like Josh Hart and Quickly and DiVincenzo. So I think it's possible to even play 4 Knicks in cash, but I'd probably just limit it to 3. But they're in a really great spot. I think RJ Barrett is going to get lost in the shuffle, and I think he makes for a really standout tournament play on the short slate.
I like it. Keith, how about you? Who on the Knicks are you getting to today? And how would you prioritize them, like 1 through 4 here on FanDuel?
Yeah, definitely starts with Brunson. Agree with everything that Tim said. Just a great spot for him. Awesome matchup against Milwaukee. They've really been struggling against point guards since trading away Drew Holiday. With Dame Lillard there, they're just not nearly as strong of a defensive unit. So Brunson, the guy that I'm prioritizing as well. The Mitch Rob stuff is really interesting. On FanDuel, his ownership isn't quite as high. I like him for tournaments over there. You can only play 1 center, so that makes sense that it's lower here on FanDuel. On DK, I don't mind the Robinson fade just because the foul trouble that you talked about, TJ, is a great point. And if you're going to lean into that a little bit, Randall could see huge minutes in this spot if Robinson finds himself in foul trouble, or a guy like Hartenstein could see a slight bump up into the 20-minute range. As far as how I rank them, I think I'd go Brunson and then Quickly is my second favorite. Just the ownership on him is a little bit lower than guys like Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. And we've just seen him score so many points in such a hurry. Like, he doesn't need 30 minutes to just put up a monster smash game. He could do that in like 26 minutes. We have him projected for 22 in this spot. Like, there's room up on those minutes. So quickly is my favorite tournament play behind Brunson. Then I would slide Mitchell Robinson in there. And between like the Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo value plays that are picking up ownership, I do prefer Hart slightly. Just feel better about his minutes. And then I like Tim's RJ Barrett call. He's the one guy that it seems like isn't going to get played here.
I like that. I hope so, because he is currently in my single entry lineup. I'm going with a similar strategy as I did last night with just overloading the Celtics today, and I'm doing that with the Knicks. Yeah, they're going to be chalky. Well, I'm just going to not choose between them. I'm going to play all of them because I think they are the best value on today's slate. What about the Buck side of things? Staying with you, Keith. If we're really going to get sub 10% ownership on Giannis right now, obviously that's really tough to get to with the lack of value in single entry. But I think if you're playing 150, you have a duty to get at least 10%.
Yeah, it seems like that would be the move. It's really hard to get up there. You're not going to like the lineup and how it looks. Like, there's going to be at least one or two players that you're just like, man, I really don't want to be clicking these guys. But it's what you have to do. We know he has one of the highest ceilings in the entire league, but I don't love the matchup here. So I think the low ownership makes sense. The Knicks are a very tough matchup. They play slow. They rebound really well. They play good defense. So tough spot here for Giannis. Definitely not my favorite spend up on the slate. If I was I think Brook Lopez is in play just because of his price tag. He's cash viable, I would say. My favorite play on the Bucks is Chris Middleton. Like, the minutes are capped. We know that, but they've been coming up slowly. He started off the season playing like 15 to 18. Then he's in that 20-minute range for a couple of games. We've seen a couple 25, 26, 27s here recently. Now that this is a must-win tournament game, it wouldn't surprise me to see Middleton play like 28, 29. I think 30 is like a hard cap. They wouldn't go over 30 minutes on him, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Middleton play 28 minutes in this spot, and I really like him at this price.
Tim, anything else you like for Milwaukee? And then after you're done with them, take us over to the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I really like the Brook Lopez call, a pivot off of Mitch Rob. But other than that, Keith broke it down perfectly. It's so hard to play Giannis. Like, I don't exactly know how you can do it. So he's not on my single entry team, but I get it if you're making a bunch of teams. I'm just gonna stick with like guys like Dame, guys like Middleton or Lopez as my favorite Bucks. Going over to the Suns. This is not nearly as good as a fantasy game as the last game. So I think Eric Gordon is my favorite play from the Suns. Obviously, Durant and Booker are great, but if I'm going to go that high, I think I'd rather play guys like AD or LeBron over guys like Durant and Booker. So I'm pretty low on the Suns today in terms of from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. These guys are pretty difficult to get to. Grayson Allen's FanDuel price tag, I think, makes him a pretty great cash game play. I'll maybe plug him in there right now as one of these guys that we're going to put in. Keith, how about you? Anybody else you like on Phoenix? Maybe we want to actually get Eric Gordon probably in there too, since he's so cheap on FanDuel. But Keith, anybody else you like on Phoenix? And then take me over to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, I really like the Eric Gordon price tag. Came into the game with the Q tag, so maybe will keep his ownership down a little bit. Anybody that was hand building leading up to lock here, maybe just not feeling comfortable clicking Eric Gordon. So definitely like him. The Booker Durant is difficult. Like, it wouldn't surprise anybody if one of them smashed. It's really hard to figure out which one it's going to be. I lean to Durant in this spot. He has a ton of minutes upside. Booker's been dealing with the injury, so I'm not sure they would push him as much. But Durant's been playing a ton of minutes in non-tournament games, so 40 minutes is not out of the question here for KD. I like him as a pivot off of Anthony Davis, who's going to be a little bit more popular. So Kevin Durant is currently in my lineup. It's uncomfortable to fade AD, but that's just the move that I'm going. I like the ownership a little bit better for Durant. the bench guys, like the value on the Suns is so difficult because their rotation is very spread out. They're like most teams are going to run like an 8-man rotation in these tournament games. The Suns could play like 10 or 11 guys in this spot. It makes it really difficult to find some value. If you're chasing something like that, I would say a guy like Okogie is maybe somebody who could play 20 minutes in this spot, just not a great per minute producer. So I'm not really on any of this Suns value at all. I will say that it wouldn't surprise me to see one of like Nasir Little or Yuta Watanabe get squeezed out of the rotation, and like these secondary guys play a few more minutes than they're projected. It's just impossible to guess which one. So I'm probably out on it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Tim, we got Brunson, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson plugged in here. What are your thoughts on the Lakers? And then are there any other players here from a cash game or optimal lineup standpoint you feel like are necessary?
I'm trying to think. So we got Gordon, we got Allen, we got Randall, Brunson. Chris Middleton, I bet. I think Middleton's too cheap on Fanduel, and I think he's going to play like 30 minutes. So I would add Chris Middleton to that. That leaves you with what? I can't quite 7,000. That's plenty. Yeah. So like you could even go like Dame at point guard or something like that. But yeah, like I love that. I think Chris Middleton is definitely a cash game play.
All right, let's make the pivot over to DraftKings, and then we'll make sure that we save some time for QQs as well. Hit that like button for us on YouTube, and as soon as we're done with DraftKings here, we will get to some QQs as we make the pivot here. If you're playing NFL this week, make sure you are checking out SimLabs, because the beta version of the NFL lineup tool is here now with FanDuel compatibility. Use SimLabs to generate DFS lineups through the power of simulation. It combines data from every aspect of the slate to churn out lineups that match your preferences. In just a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups ready to go for whatever contest type you're playing. Be sure to check out the link in our description for more info while we're still free and in beta. Starting on DraftKings here with the Knicks, they're not quite as priced as favorably here as they are on FanDuel, but they are still probably all the best values on the slate. Keith, talk to me about the New York Knicks.
Yes, same story here on DraftKings. I would say Robinson is mega chalk over here at this price tag. You can play two centers, so it definitely makes sense. I'd be underweight a little bit in tournaments just because of the foul trouble stuff that we talked about. Brunson has a fantastic price. I like Quickly even better over here with the 3-point bonus. DiVincenzo and Hart are just as cheap. Like it's same story. Brunson the priority, Mitch Rob the best value, and the other guys are excellent values as well.
I'm playing two lineups on this slate, and the way I'm handling it is my one lineup is just overloaded with the one lineup is just overloaded with the Knicks starters, and I'm thinking like this is a close game. Maybe the Milwaukee players are priced up to a point I can't quite get to them, but I'll use some value from the later game, and then I want to use the best players from this game. My other lineup is I'm playing this to be a little bit of a blowout some kind. The only player I have is the somewhat chalky on DraftKings Beauchamp on Milwaukee, and then my Knicks are all the backups. I have Quickly, I have Hart, I have Hartenstein, and I'm just kind of loading up with that style of build. So I'm hoping one of these two lineups hits pretty well. Tim, who you liking on the Knicks? And then take me over to Milwaukee.
Yeah, Brunson, obviously. I still like Barrett. He's going to be even less owned on DK, 13% right now. Mitch Rob at 60%. I never thought I'd see that. That's crazy to me. I really like Josh Hart at 53. Power forward, small forward. Going to the Bucks. Like, yeah, obviously Giannis, but I really don't think you can play him. So if you want to play a buck, I think it's Lopez. Marjon Beauchamp, I think is fine at 3,400, but he's going to be like 50% owned. So I mean, if you kind of live in the mid range, you can kind of get away from some ownership and not have to worry about playing like some of these super chalk like bench guys. So I don't know, but yeah. And then obviously Chris Middleton, I love at 6K.
Keith, what about you? Who else on the Bucks are you planning on getting to? And then pivot me to the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, Middleton definitely the priority here for me. He's my favorite play on the Bucks. Beauchamp, I agree, is a good fade in tournaments. Just like save a little bit in your other value spots, and you don't have to go all the way down to 3,400. There's not very many 3K, if any at all, 3K range players that are viable on this slate. But Beauchamp just doesn't produce that much when he's out there anyway. So agree, there's not much ceiling there. Not a lot to like on the rest of the Bucks either. Like Portis is a name we haven't mentioned yet. I think he's in play. Lillard is a little bit overpriced, I think. So I'm not getting there. Let's go ahead and move it on to the second game here. Suns, it's the same thing that we talked about on FanDuel. Durant, I do like even more here on DraftKings. 9,900, a nice pivot away from guys like Anthony Davis. Just like 20% ownership feels pretty good on Kevin Durant. It's hard to know whether it's him or Booker, but Durant is kind of my guy. He's the stand I'm taking today. Eric Gordon is priced up a little bit more here on DraftKings. Still like him. I think he has a nice role. He can make some threes where he gets a bonus for that over here on DraftKings. Grayson Allen, another value play. The bench guys are kind of like similar story. It's just too hard to nail down this rotation to take shots on them in tournaments.
Quickly, Tim, who you liking on the Lakers, and then who are the must-play cash game optimal plays on DraftKings, and then we'll hit QQs.
Probably Anthony Davis would be my favorite. Russell, 6,700. Cash game from which team, TJ?
Do cash games in general, like who are the must-plays on DraftKings?
Mitch Robb, Middleton, I think Randall, maybe even, I don't know, maybe even Josh Hart, because I know he's going to play a bunch of minutes. What does that leave us with?
5,300 remaining for our last three positions.
Maybe put Russell in, get a Laker.
I like that. DiVincenzo is really cheap, and Max Christie is a guy that we haven't talked about much. I like him a lot for tournaments. Only projected for 22 minutes right now, but he's been earning a little bit bigger role with the Lakers. Obviously, they've got some guys back now. Jared Vanderbilt, Cam Reddish missed some time. It's hard to nail down their rotation at this point too, but Max Christie I think is really interesting for tournaments especially.
Yeah,
I like that call as well. All right, let's get to some QQs here. We have 5 minutes for until lock, so make sure you are starting to get your lineups in. Going to the RotoGrinders Discord here first. Typically don't have too many questions there for a small game slate, so we'll be able to pop over to YouTube nice and quick. FanDuel GPP, Keith, AD, Giannis, and Brunson with scrubs, or AD, Booker, Brunson, and D'Lo with scrubs. So basically, would you go Giannis or Booker?
Yeah, I mean, it's just too hard to get up to Booker. You get a little bit more in your other spots, I think, by going down to that next tier of star below Giannis. So I'd be on the Booker side.
All right, FanDuel GPP, favorite studs. Tim, in a single entry, who would be the stud you're paying up for?
The stud I'm paying up for would probably be, I think AD.
I like it. DK GPP, favorite player, 4,100 or less, Keith?
4,100 is way down there. Let me see. Like Beauchamp is going to be the chalk down there. Man, there is not a lot to like. Grimes is going to see some minutes, not a big producer per minute. Keita Bates-Diop, maybe he runs into a few extra minutes. Like it's ugly down there. Nothing comfortable. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Pivoting over to the YouTube chat here, got my fellow Canadian HPO Training. Last two spots on DraftKings, 5,900 per player. Tim, who are you looking to fill out your lineups in the last two spots here?
On
forward
DK?
and utility on DK, yeah.
I would go RJ Barrett, so that would leave 61 for util. I guess Middleton. Yeah, I'd say
Love
Middleton.
And then if you already got one of those guys in your lineup, you could maybe go somebody like Eric Gordon in there as well.
Or you could go Austin Reeves too.
Yeah, another nice option there. Fanduel studs, hit that one. Fanduel doesn't say the format, but on Fanduel, Keith, Russell and Dante DiVincenzo or Reeves and Hart.
We'd go the Reeves Hart side.
Here we go. Tim, what are your thoughts on Jared Vanderbilt today? Do you think he's playable on any site?
I see a couple of people have asked that in chat, and I don't think so. We haven't projected for 14 minutes. So
yeah, I think he's still going to be pretty limited minutes wise. Only a second game of the season.
I would almost rather play Nazir Little, take a shot on him. I don't know.
Large field DKGPP looking for 3700 or less punt at the forward spot. Currently considering Vanderbilt. Keith, what are your thoughts?
Man, you're giving me all the girls.
Vanderbilt, or you going Beauchamp at 50%?
Yeah, I think I would try to get away from Beauchamp. So I'd take the shot on Vanderbilt. I don't think he's playing more than 15, 16 minutes, but why not?
Tim, what do you think about Malik Beasley on DraftKings?
Yeah, so he plays a ton of minutes, but he doesn't really do much with those minutes. So I'd almost rather play like Bobby Portis off the bench.
J3 likes D Russ. He's on the same page. OS wants to know thoughts on fading Middleton on FanDuel. You guys both like Middleton a lot today. I put Middleton in one team because of how much both of you guys liked him in a very small field because he'll probably be somewhat chalky. But I'm going to be honest. I was planning on fading him before the show. I'm not personally a really big fan. But last question here before we get locked. Dante DiVincenzo or Torian Prince, Tim?
DiVincenzo, definitely.
Pivoting back to the RotoGrinders Discord, Chinatown, DK Cash, Portis, or Grayson Allen?
Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
Sorry, DK GPP, Keith, KD and Beauchamp, or Lillard and Little?
I prefer the first one. I don't love playing Beauchamp, but I like KD better.
Only a few seconds left to lock. Make sure you get your lineups in here. J3 says QQ, not financial advice, but can we get Keith Iceman moneyline prediction on for the Lakers and Suns? Who wins that game?
Man, it's really excited to watch this one. I think it's going to be a good one. The Suns are just still having trouble figuring out their chemistry. I think the Lakers pull this one out.
All right, we got the Prime Point show coming in for football shortly after us here, so make sure you tune in for that one as well. That'll do it for this edition of FanDuel sponsored Crunch Time. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. If you forgot about it earlier, no worries. Get to it now. If you're watching on your phone, click hide chat, then hit that like button. And we will hopefully see you soon for the Prime Point show. If not, we will see you tomorrow for some more NBA content. On behalf of myself, Tim, and Keith, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today, and we will catch you later. You have been crunched.